Welcome to Season 3 of Malevolent Autopsy. I'm your host, Queen. I use she, her pronouns, and I am so excited to be here with you all. Now, let me warn you, this show contains major spoilers for everything in Malevolent as of the day this episode is published, so if you're not caught up, I'm not liable. Before we get started tonight, I'd like to ask my lovely co-host, what part of Arthur's body are you betting on getting injured this week?
Pretty obvious. I feel like I don't even need to say it. The pinky.
Yeah.
But if we needed like a bonus, we'll do like he's gonna stub his toe. He's gonna like trip on something and stub his toe.
I love that. That's great. So you're not Vol, who usually hosts the show with me. Who are you?
Who's to say? I am PinchofPeppers. You can just call me Peppers, and I go by she, her pronouns.
Thank you so much for filling in while Vol is gone. I really appreciate it. And I missed you being here. So I'm really excited you get to come back for such a fun episode.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Will you summarize our chapter for us, Peppers?
Yes, ma'am. Alrighty. So in episode 282, the episode begins with our patron decision of Lilith remaining voiced as she is. She and Arthur bicker, Lilith making her distaste of Arthur and John's friendship very clear. She finds their view of humanity, quote-unquote, weak and dim-witted. She goads Arthur constantly, first reminding him of Bella's death, then of Ferro's. It is during this time that Arthur later explains in detail how Ferro drowned. We get some Ferro drowning lore, yay! Tess left water in the bathtub, then advised Arthur, and then left. Ferro, who was already out of the bathtub, decided to climb back in and finish her bath. Arthur describes her as, quote, very independent, unquote. He does acknowledge his responsibility and acknowledges that Lilith is angry at him about it. He implies that perhaps she cares for humanity, as her rage for Ferro, as well as her decision to give Alia a somewhat peaceful death, reflects that care. After further bickering, they agree to consolidate their plans. The manager is hiding the obelisk, which Cain needs in order to access Azathoth. Once signaled, the manager will reveal the obelisk and lead Cain to a focused location for Lilith to kill him. They need to escape the Dreamlands, and to do that, Arthur needs to gather supplies. They agree to head to the abandoned shed that Arthur had stumbled upon his first time in the Dreamlands, and use those supplies to trade with our elusive wooden guy. However, in order to escape the forest, Arthur must offer a piece of himself again to the woods, and in order to do that, he must choose either Lilith's finger or his own.
And that is such a juicy parallel to how this went before with John. I loved that. What did you think of the chapter, Peppers? Did you enjoy it? Was it interesting? Was it funny? What did you think?
Incredible. I mean, I will harken back just a tiny bit to the previous episode to just give a little bit of background. For those of you who don't know, I was a big baby the last time Arthur died. I was a total wimp about it. I talk a big game. And in fact, I put him through a lot of shit in my own art. And then the moment it happens in canon, I cry and throw up. So when Arthur had died in the Dark World, I got multiple people messaging me being like, hey, by the way, this is going to be a rough one. And I'm like, cool, awesome. What does that mean? Because I hadn't caught up yet. I then listened to it without context and was like, okay, that wasn't that bad. Then I re-listened to it with context and I was like, oh, fuck. That would have fucked me up so bad. I would have had to call out of work. Previously, I was like, no, I'm going to put on a brave face and I'm not going to pretend this doesn't impact me. And then it happened to me. And then I listened to it and I was like, I'm just going to have to live with the fact that this absolutely has fucked me up. Like, yeah, this would have ruined me. Just the fact that he completely vanished from existence. I was like, cool, I'm gonna die.
Cool,
And,
I'm gonna die. It's
yeah.
such a good way to put it. Yeah, I think a lot of people felt like that.
Yeah, so when he does actually like split out of a tree, I'm like, thank God I can breathe, because I'm gonna be real. I would have had a big old tantrum if Arthur were to permanently die, and just maybe I would have stopped listening for like a little bit. I would have definitely come back.
Yeah.
But I would have sulked quite a bit.
Yeah, I think you are not alone in that, and I think a lot of people took a very short break trying to figure out how they were going to continue, if they were going to continue. I know some people asked specifically to be briefed on how things shook out so they know when to come back and things like that. So definitely not alone. I think a lot of people were really struggling, but I'm glad that it happened, because I think it was important for us to feel the weight of it, and I think it was done super well.
Yeah, and I had some very good friends who are messaging me being like, hey, I can listen in and reveal and spoil it for you if you need. And I was like, no, I'm a big girl. I can do it. So we persevered.
Well, I'm glad that you did it.
And now we're back. And now we get a sassy Lily. Oh my gosh, I can't speak. Little Lilith, which I do love. I do love her sass. I do love that we get just like a little inkling of her personality here. I absolutely adore that. Love that Arthur's alive. It's kind of like the biggest point for me. And then everything else after that, I'm like, I don't really care. As long as he's alive, I don't give a shit.
You just need him to be around enough to torture again.
So, yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll stick with that. However, I do want somebody there to like cry and throw up over him. So either Lilith better like get with the program, or they better meet with John ASAP, because I need someone to cry and throw up over Arthur in canon.
Yeah, it sucks is that nobody but John will know he died.
Yeah,
that's a bummer. I loved this episode. I thought it was really, really good. I think it was a lot of really good levity where we needed it. I think that there were some incredible lines that will be memorized, recited, and memed for all time. I think there's some really big bangers, and that actually brings me to my first point here on the show. If you don't know, we do carrots and sticks, which is basically just what was your treat, what was your little sweet treat of the episode, your favorite part, and what was the thing that you are most anxious about, or the thing that you're dreading, or the worst horror element that made your skin crawl, and things like that. And my carrot for this week was the shut the fuck Arthur switch. I am so looking forward to more of that kind of thing. I really hope that Lilith points out all of the tropes and all of the patterns that we've seen with Arthur and John and starts making fun of them, because she's just like us guys. She's been watching the whole time and she like knows what they've been through and stuff like that. So I'm that for me was like the best part of the episode, all of the little one-liners. But I think my favorite was the shut the fuck Arthur switch, because I'm like that. There are certain things where I just won't respond. You press a button and I go quiet. So I'm very relatable. Very relatable, Arthur. What was your carrot, Peppers?
My carrot was getting even just a smidgen of lore regarding Lilith. I am actually super curious as to how Lilith is going to be built up. I do feel like the narrative has been building up around her since like the very beginning, and we're just getting pieces and pieces and pieces as things keep going on. But now we can finally hear her and see how she functions and see exactly how manipulative. It's going to be really silly. I love her laugh.
Yes.
It's just so like I don't know. I find her whole like characterization so fun and so different from the other entities that we've experienced prior. So
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I have to say, it's very, her dad has a nice laugh too. People really like that guy's laugh. So it makes sense
yeah,
that hers would be really good. I like it a
yeah.
lot.
It's almost like her laugh sounds like music almost. It's hard to
Yes.
explain.
No,
Like
I
I just
totally
love
get what you're
her.
saying. It's very like melodic. It's I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's very nice. I think it's
Exactly.
really really good. And the fact that I know it's really hard to do women's voices when you have Harlan's register, I think that's really cool. There may be modulation on it, but I think he pulls it
Mhm.
off really well.
Yeah.
What about your stick?
So it's gonna seem very strange for me
Oh. Oh.
because of the person that I am and I express online. But I'm actually scared shitless to find out how fucked up Arthur's gonna get again because he's a brand new canvas now.
Yeah.
And Harlan's an artist, and Arthur is his little guy, his little chew toy. So I feel like Arthur's gonna get some brand new stuff going on with him.
Harlan's an
At least we
artist and
get,
Arthur is his chew toy. Is such a
yeah,
fucking unhinged concept. But I think you're
listen.
right. I mean, he literally mentions that he does not have his scars did not carry over as far as he knows.
Yeah, exactly. And I did find that very curious. I'm like, he's baby face. This is a baby face, no mustache having,
No hair on
no
that
pinking
face.
having like guy. That's so weird. So I'm excited to see how season 6 Arthur develops. Like I know this is a stick in terms of like, oh, things I'm scared about. I am scared for him to once again re-enter the horrors of the pain, even though this quite literally is a horror podcast.
Yeah, I feel like maybe we'll have something interesting in terms of how he gets re-scarred because I think Harlan likes to say you can't do the same thing twice, really. And so maybe what if Smooth Arthur is forever? Maybe Arthur won't get physically mangled again. I don't know. Maybe, which is, an interesting thing to say on a week that has a vote where we're literally choosing which of his pinkies to bite off, but that doesn't make him not smooth. That doesn't, that's just like chopping a piece off is different from smoothing. Anyway, my stick was the amount of Faro based emotional agony that is refreshed in the podcast now because of how willing Lilith is to weaponize her death and how Arthur was involved in it. I am not prepared for that because she just comes out swinging like right away because she doesn't have the relationship that Arthur forged with John, and she didn't have that like boundary and that understanding, and she doesn't care that that's something that weighs on Arthur. In fact, she has a lot of strong feelings about whether or not he should be allowed to say that he doesn't want to hear about it, and I think she makes a really good point. I think it's very interesting to see the other side of things in a way that John used to be like that a lot more in the beginning of the series, where it would be kind of like Arthur's making a decision and John is the one who's bringing up the other side of that decision, and we have to listen to both of them work it out. But as the show has gone on, John's gotten more and more cooperative, which means he doesn't always point out the flaw in that logic, or he doesn't always have strong feelings about the other side. But Lilith is just so brand new to this for us that I think it's really refreshing to hear another voice going, you know what? It's nice and convenient for you to be able to say when you want to stop talking about this awful thing you did, but you don't get to do that. I think that's an interesting point to discuss, if not like agree with.
No, what I find so fascinating about Lilith is how much she relates to these female characters in the story of She has so much compassion for Bella, and like she seems angry about it, obviously, and she maybe isn't expressing compassion in the most stereotypical sense, but her having this kind of passion and rage towards the way that Faro died, that Bella was abandoned, and the way that Alia was treated in the world that Alia lived in. And so in her kind of monstrous like perspective, this is a mercy. So I find that so fun that Lilith kind of stands as this spokesperson for these women in this show to be like, hey, Arthur, you're really like self-centered right now.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
like that.
I think we are all, I think a large majority of people are very excited to hear those perspectives that we don't get to see from John because he's so emotionally entangled with Arthur, where she can be like, you're kind of an asshole, dude. And I know that John's been with you long enough to get through all that, but you are still an asshole. And there's consequences to being an asshole. And I really like that. I think Arthur has gone through a lot and he's changed and grown, but he still has flaws. And I do think that it's really interesting to see him deal with it with a lot more composure now. If John had said half the shit that Lilith just said to him, Arthur would be gone off the deep end a little feral, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's throughout this entire season, especially these past 2 seasons, he's really come to terms with Faro's death and come to terms with the fact that he had a hand in it, but also not beating himself up to such a point that he's self-destructive, that his self-hatred he's finally addressing his self-hatred in a way that is a lot more healthy. And so Lilith's goading maybe didn't goad him as much as it probably could have.
Yeah, I agree. I think it shows it's a good testament to what the story has done for Arthur and how far we've come, that he's handling it like this. I think it was a really good demo of Arthur as a comparison and contrast to like season 1. I think it would be very cool someday to see a cut of the ways he's responded to these deities bringing up Faro, from John to Cain to Scratch to Lilith, who technically kind of the same person, but different points in the story. Okay, so we're gonna do some voice submissions. We have quite a lot of them. So I'm going to start with ones that are not related specifically to the vote, and then we will pause to get into the vote. So first, I would like to start with some opinions from a longtime submitter.
Hey, Autumn here, and before we get into the vote, oh my god, bathtub law. This makes everything infinitely worse, because she was always such an independent child. She was neglected. Oh, I mean, we already knew this, but to have it driven home like this hurts so badly. It makes me wonder if Faro had survived, would she and Arthur have had a strained relationship? Was that the case in the universe where she lost everything to Cain? Fuck, man. And also the way Arthur treats Lilith as well. It begins very reminiscent of the way he acted towards Yellow, but I think the moment he confirmed to Lilith, anger wasn't directed at humanity, but rather at the world's worst fathers, he actually gained a level of sympathy for her that he could never have felt for Yellow, even when it was sorely needed. Because maybe, if he works with Lilith, it's some sort of penitence for what he's done. Maybe if he can show Lilith that he can be a good ally, father, then this will show Faro he is sorry too. Arthur can't forgive himself for Faro's death, and strive to do better, and Lilith may be the way that he chooses to do so.
Thank you for your submission, Autumn. I think that's a really good point.
Wow, that's really well said. First of all, you have such like a calming voice, Autumn. That's such like a chill, like, love that voice. But love that perspective, especially or love that point, I should say, of Lilith's rage being pointed at the world's worst fathers is such a good point to make. And also the fact that the reason why Faro was so independent was because Arthur failed her as a father. I really like that.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I also enjoy the idea that this is kind of penitence, I think was the word that Autumn used. And maybe this can feel like fixing something or healing something. I don't know that that's necessarily going to work. Usually it's really hard to make up for something like that you've done and that is terrible. I don't think you can really make up for it, but I think you can, in the same way that people do a bad thing and then spend their lives doing good. I think that's the same principle here. And I think it's really smart to show that in the narrative that, like, no, he can't ever take it back. He can't ever make up for it, but he can spend the rest of the time he has doing good. And that can be a contribution to the world, an apology to the memory of Thoreau, rather than trying desperately to fix or cover it up or use the excuse of shame and guilt to stop from moving forward, which I think is always Arthur's struggle. Let's go ahead and hear another one.
Hello, autopsiers. Gogoat here. Any pronouns. First off, I'd like to say thank you so much for the shout out last week. That was so sweet and I appreciate it so much. I'm sad I missed it live. That would have been so much fun to be in the chat for. Okay, now on to my actual note. The death of Thoreau Lester continues to get more and more and more devastating with each chapter. Last week we had little sprinkles of their time together, and this week we learned that she climbed in the bathtub. I wouldn't be surprised if at first she thought how proud her dad would be when he came in to see that she ran the bath all on her own. Thoreau's independence came from the very thing that led to her death. Arthur's neglect. It is what built her, and it is what killed her. I continue to be amazed by Lilith's voice. I feel like it's this wonderful mixture of monstrous and feminine. A lot of monster voices in media are more masculine leaning, so not only is it a unique take, it's also a really impressive feat from Harlan. I don't know if I'm clutching at Eldritch Arthur straws with this, but why were there whisper sound effects when Arthur yelled? That's usually a John thing, or other Eldritch entities thing. Eldritch Arthur? Yes? Maybe? Maybe.
Thank you, Gogoat. Oh my god, I love that.
Yeah, I think the way that I interpreted it was when Arthur yelled, he essentially stopped Lilith's attempt in taking him over, and so that was more of his resistance. But it's also potential that because his body was birthed in the Dreamlands now, maybe there's a piece of the Dreamlands, like he's a part of it now. And maybe he isn't just human. Maybe he's a little bit something more now.
Yeah, I think tree. Part tree, part magic tree. I think that I think it's really good argument to say Arthur is not human anymore. I mean, I think he is human in the sense that we understand it, but I don't think he is fully just human anymore because he's been birthed in a different plane of existence from a tree. And I think that means that we're going to have maybe Arthur discovering that he has some new abilities. I don't know that they'll be as impressive as projection or anything crazy like that, but it would be wild if there weren't repercussions to being rebirthed in the Dreamlands. Interesting idea that we might get an Eldritch Arthur. And if you're born in the Dreamlands, does that mean that you what happens when you try and leave? What happens? Are you able to like traverse planes more easily? Is it more difficult? Do you have the ability to be in people's dreams? Like, I don't know. It remains to be seen. This is truly something I think we're going to be seeing Harlan's creative freedom flex on it in the last few episodes of the season.
Yeah, I think it's also a good point. Just thinking, how human is Arthur if you're born from a tree? And thus begins the discussion truly of humanity and what happens if you're born from, I don't know, a lab. Does that make you human? Let's bring this to the real world. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about heavy scientific discoveries and political topics. It's totally what the show's about.
Yeah.
I think that somebody brought up, like Hydra says in the chat, I really want to know if he still needs to eat. And things like that. It like we don't have any further information on this. I think it's going to be an interesting thing to see what Arthur can and can't do. And people have also brought up again the ship of Theseus, which is basically, in our case, like if Arthur died and his body was destroyed and then he died again, and essentially what we have come to understand is that his like soul-ish thing was destroyed. Maybe we have a kind of a nebulous idea of what it is that's in the dark world that like was talking the whole time and acting and feeling things. Is this still Arthur? He has all his memories. He has kind of the same body, but with some differences. He has this, like, you know, his general faculties intact. So is this still our Arthur? Could you technically say that our Arthur died in 280 and this is a different guy? We have a new timeline Arthur, quote unquote. I don't know. It's a very interesting concept. Okay. Let's listen to another voice message.
Hi, this is Pi, she, her. What do you mean he doesn't have the obelisk? If he doesn't have it, why was Yorick so insistent we were out of time? As we speak, there is little to stop Kane from completing the... Yorick, that's a pretty big thing preventing Kane from completing his wager. Now, I am hoping this is just a difference of perspectives and Yorick doesn't know something Lilith doesn't. Assuming Lilith is correct and that the manager is still safeguarding the obelisk, where is it? Could very well just be in a corner of the waylay with a blanket thrown over it, but it seems more that the manager is obscuring its location than him actively having relocated it. So where could it be? For the uninitiated, spoilers for Game 2 and the Witch's Mark, when the various stars fell to Earth, the obelisk initially landed in Leary and had the Lodge Key catacombs built up around it. Eventually, it was relocated to Egypt, where it was then rediscovered in 1887 by Don Anderson and William Carter. Don shipped it back to Arkham in 1889 under the watch of one Conrad Stanchik, and you'll recognize Carter as the guy who initially hired the Butcher in 1923 to steal the Crimson Stone, kicking off the events of the Witch's Mark. At the time, William Carter was Nyarlathotep.
Thank you, Pi. There's a second part to Pi's submission, and I do want to play it. But before we get into all that, because it's a whole other message, I just want to mention we got so much tasty information about what's going to happen next and what our new goal is. And I love that. I love having goals. I love having tasks. I love a cheeky little let's go get the thing and we need to bait and switch and all this shit. I love that. It's great. I'm so excited about that. Let's listen to the next one.
Thanks to the events of Malevolent Season 4, we know the Witch's Mark takes place the same way whether or not Shub existed. So no matter what, William Carter did all that. And it makes sense, you know, it's easier to just hire Collins to get your rock collection rather than going dimension hopping. And the obelisk was well before Kane was Kane, so even if the order of events isn't identical, I think it's reasonable to assume that he knows what they unearthed in Egypt. So how did he lose a rock that big? It's like the size of a cargo hull. I'm just hoping it's made its way back to Leary. Somewhere close to home.
Thank you, Pi, for the submission. You make some really good points. How the fuck did you lose an artifact that big? And I don't know, that's interesting. Also, the visual of the manager just like putting a blanket over this giant obelisk in the corner of the swanky 1920s waylay is killing me. I need somebody to draw that like ASAP.
I find it very, a really hilarious image, but I think it's more of a commentary also on, I have always seen Kane and the manager and Lilith and all these different creatures as what we are quote unquote seeing as, you know, their bodies of, pretty human at the very
Yeah.
least with the manager and Kane are not, in my opinion, their actual genuine full form, full bodies, because they are so large. Like, I have not really consumed in detail any Lovecraft actual books, because fuck that guy.
Amen.
Yeah. Also, he needs to relax about his cat. Listen, I love cats, but holy shit, dude. But the emphasis in that genre is just how immense these eldritch beings are, that they are like something even as large as, this obelisk is supposed to be, should be minuscule, tiny in comparison to their size. So I'm wondering if that maybe has just some influence on the fact that Kane can't find it anymore. But I do think it's a good point to bring up the fact that Yorick is like, yeah, he's about to find the obelisk and we don't have that much time. So
Yeah, I think this plan is very interesting. I also really like the way that Pi mentioned at the end that maybe the obelisk has got to be somewhere close to home, and there have been characters that have been mentioned at thresholds and close by that could become relevant in the near future, which I think that's a very good observation, Pi, who made the observation and I didn't. I have an email to read out as our next submission. And before I read that email, I am going to talk about the vote. So, the poll for this week was to bite Lilith's hand or bite Arthur's hand. And right now, as I speak, bite Lilith's hand is at 42%, with bite Arthur's hand at 58%, and 388 votes total. So, we have been reaching the 500s lately, above 500, quite far above last vote, I think. So definitely still quite a lot of people who need to vote, and I hope they are doing that. But I think it's still totally possible to flip if that's your prerogative. Before we start listening to other people's messages and getting into the weeds about how people are voting and what their arguments are, Peppers, did you vote? And if you did, what are you voting for?
I did. I actually did. And
Wow.
I actually voted that we bite Arthur's hand. I know. It's controversial.
Oh my gosh. Controversial. Okay, why? Tell me why.
So, to be quite honest, I only did it because I'm a little afraid of Lilith.
You are so real for that.
I'm just afraid of her. And I'm really scared of what she's going to do to Arthur if we bite her pinky off. And that's
you are
like her
so
first
real.
human sensation is him biting his. She was such a. I don't know if I could say this. She was such a pussy. When it came.
It's my podcast. Yes, you can say.
When it came to her getting pinched. And so I'm like, girl, she's gonna like literally rip our intestines out the moment that we bite her pinky off. So she scares me. And so that's why I want to bite our pinky off. That's it.
You know what, Peppers? Of all of the arguments I have seen in the poll minds and in our chat tonight, that is not one I have seen, and it is so real and perfect because it's true. I am also a little afraid of Lilith and what she's gonna do. I know that she right now doesn't seem to have a lot of control, but she's clearly like a level above the other guys we've been messing with. So I don't know. I don't really want to fuck with her.
I just don't want to fuck around and find out. This is the one time I don't want to do that.
Well, I'm also voting to bite Arthur's hand, which is interesting because tonight, Peppers, we have so many more submissions for people who want us to bite Lilith's hand than we do Arthur's. So I have lined up all of the Lilith voters' submissions up front, and we can discuss and debate with them as we go, and then we will end off on the Arthurs that we agree with. But I will just say, up ahead, I browsed the slow poll discussion chat and the regular poll chat, and I tried to have a conversation about like, okay, what's going on? Because I wasn't able to be super active in the poll minds like usual. So I basically outlined it like this. This is kind of how I see the vote. So people are voting that we should bite Lilith's hand because, bullet point list, this is probably manipulation. She deserves it for pushing Arthur around. Arthur needs to make a point / establish boundaries. She has given us no reason to be kind enough to spare her pain if she is really fearful of it. Biting Arthur's hand is going to cause him injury that he will struggle with for a while, even if only temporarily, since it may again be replaced by wood, and he's already been through enough. She needs to feel pain eventually. Protecting her from it won't help now. And of course, the final one, spite. Then I had the list for we should bite Arthur's hand because it's a statement on humanity, morals, kindness, growth, all that fluffy like narrative stuff, which people talk about in their Arthur submissions as well. So I won't harp too much on it. But basically, it would be good narratively for Arthur to spare her this pain, and there are some good symbolic reasons for doing that. It might show her that Arthur is not to be fucked with because he's willing to go through that amount of pain, and she can't even take a little pinch on the back of the hand. And the last one I wrote down was Lilith's reaction to being bitten will make it harder to move forward or keep the relationship cooperative. And you will notice that one of those lists is much shorter than the other, and yet I am still voting to bite Arthur's hand. So we have a journey to go through in listening to these submissions. And I'm going to start with this email that I will just read out loud to us. Hey, Peppers and Queen. Few-time listener, first-time caller Andy here. My argument is simple. Think of the fan art. Do you really want to get used to drawing the wooden pinky on the right hand instead of the left? Really, though, I think Lilith doesn't understand that Arthur isn't to be fucked with. However, I don't really see us biting her as a punishment, but more of us not harming ourselves just because she asked. Lilith may resent us for it, but I think that's better than immediately showing her she can get her way so easily. Okay, bye. Thank you, Andy, for your email submission.
Okay, I just have to jump in because I did think about this. I did,
okay.
And I had people come up to me, not come up to me, but you know, like we had discussions, and my friends were like, girl, think of the fact that one pinky is just going to be slightly darker than the other. Huh? And then the other one is going to be wooden. No, we're going to replace that fucker and put that pinky back on where it belongs. Is kind of the implication that I got. But yeah. I will just say that if we switch that hand, it will be a reflection in future art that it will make it distinct from all prior seasons to season 6 of it. Hey, it's now been switched to the other pinky. So really think about that.
I was mentioning too when we first learned that Arthur was going to be scarless, how this is going to be a really interesting narrative indicator when people do fan art for which season Arthur I'm looking at.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's listen to our first poll voice submission. This one is by Autumn, and Autumn submitted earlier in this episode, so did not restate name and pronouns, but just so you know, this is Autumn.
To the vote, though, I know this is such fucking tonal whiplash, but I say bite off Lilith's finger. Yada yada, Arthur becomes Lilith's surrogate father figure, but practically speaking, Arthur's doing all the hard work walking them around the Dreamlands. I mean, don't you remember what Harlan said in the commentaries? It's like John's a toddler on Arthur's back and they're trekking through a desert. It's the same principle here. We can't have him injured. Even if he won't complain about it, this will negatively affect his ability to do things in the future. And it's his dominant hand as well. If we bit off Lilith's finger, it wouldn't nearly affect our physical progress as much. It would just mean a lot of whinging and probably a bit deeper running daddy issues, but what's a drop of water in an ocean, eh? As callous as it sounds, Lilith needs to learn to deal with pain better because Arthur is quite literally the universe's punching bag, and she's got a lot worse coming. This has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that if Arthur bites off his pinky, it will be the right hand with the wooden finger. And how am I supposed to tell my right to my left now, let alone when I draw it? Anyways. I may want the Arthur-Lilith father-daughter healing session, but I would also very much like to survive. And practically speaking, I do think sacrifices must be made for future prosperity. Anyways, thanks for listening. Have a good autopsy.
Thank you, Autumn, for your submission. And I do respect the hustle of trying to figure out right from left and how that's going to be difficult. But I believe in you. Maybe this is what it's all for. Maybe the whole point of this debacle is to help people tell their right from their left.
That's really what we need. So his pinky needs to stay on his left hand because because that's the only way that we know. So like when you're driving and you know your passenger next to you is like, okay, take a left, you'll be like, you won't do like the signature thumb and index finger. No, you'll be like, which pinky is
Pinky's
Arthur's
up for driving.
wooden finger? It's his left. See? I never thought of that. You're so smart.
Thank you again, Autumn, for your delightful submission. I'm going to hit another one.
Hello, this is Spade, and I have thoughts and ideas. I love this chapter. Many reveals and many more questions. I have always wondered about the Lilith and Cain situation. Lilith has always said that she is the daughter of Nyarlathotep, but has denied Cain as her father. And I always took it as her just denying him as her father, like disowning him as her father. And while I still am leaning towards that, I have a new thought that's come to mind because of the recent chapter and her more denial and anger is increasing. Lilith has connections to the manager, assumably since even before the wager, because it seems like the real plan for the wager, assumed to be both created by Lilith and the manager, was to lure Cain with the Blackstone and then kill him. But something was wrong. Well, we know it didn't work. But now I'm wondering why Lilith has ties to the manager. A new idea I had is, what if he's her father? But problem in this is Cain seems very sure that's his daughter, of the whole fruit of his loins and all. So yeah, I'm not even really 100% sure about the theory, it was just an idea I had to, I don't know, maybe mention the connection of Lilith and the manager because of the whole obelisk thing. Really wonder what that's about. And yeah, for the poll, I'm team bite. Bite Lilith. I don't see a reason not to bite her. I'm not overly sympathetic with her. I love her. But, yeah. She said, and don't worry about my feelings. Alright, I won't. But yeah, I'm fine really with either way of the poll this week. That's all, bye-bye.
Thanks for your submission, Spade. First of all, you have such a great delivery with voice messages. That was so fun to listen to. Second, yeah, I guess don't worry about my feelings was kind of her putting her fucking foot in her mouth, because what a shit things to say, and then to go, wait, but don't bite me.
Yeah, I also really love, Spade is also in the chat right now, and Spade was like, I hated saying fruit of my loins. Totally agree. The moment Cain said that, I was like, ooh, I do not want to know.
No, thank you.
That's your stuff.
I think it's interesting to point out in this voice message, we talk a little bit about the idea of like the feelings around familial ties between these gods, and how I was talking to some friends earlier today, Oakley in particular, who were helping me understand what the meaning is supposed to be behind like gods that are related, because I've always heard like, oh, Cain and Lilith are like father-daughter, but that doesn't really mean what it means to us, because gods aren't related in the same way that humans are related. Gods are born, John said, fully formed, and they don't have that experience of being parented and nurtured into adulthood the way humans do. So I've kind of always ignored that connection because I can't understand how I'm supposed to take it if it's not in the human way. And so hearing Lilith have such strong feelings about like fathers and really talking about that parental tie almost confused me. I was a little bit like, I have to think about this a little bit more and like unpack what I've been thinking about over time with this relationship and how I'm supposed to interpret it. And I think it's been an interesting journey seeing how that relationship is emphasized through both Cain and Lilith, because Cain mentions that Lilith's his daughter more than I think people realize. If you go back and listen to every time we've heard him, I know there's cuts and compilations on YouTube, but his episodes are really good by themselves, so I recommend going to listen to them in context. He does bring it up quite a lot, so I think there is something significant there, and where Lilith is coming from with her feelings about it all is about to become very relevant.
Yeah, and I'm just excited to see how that's explored.
Before we move on to the next message, I really wanted to read aloud the message that Oakley sent to help me understand the parental ties and how that works as far as like them not quite being raised into adulthood by parents and all that stuff. Nyarlathotep and Lilith have a proximity to humanity that most gods don't. Nyarlathotep carries out the will of Azathoth on humanity, and humanity as a concept seems to almost affect gods the way that eldritch madness affects humans. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it, etc., etc. You're forever marked by that proximity. And that really helped me reframe what all of these relationships to mean to gods versus humans, and how humans impact gods just as much as, well, relatively as much as the other way around.
I know that we've kind of like moved away from the pinky topic, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I mean, it's all irrelevant. Let's listen to another one.
Hello, my name is Pan. I use he, they pronouns, and I am once again committing to the bit of sending autopsy votes with no context for what's going on because I'm not caught up. So in this essay, we're going to be addressing whether or not to bite Lilith's hand or Arthur's hand. Now, here's the thing, right? According to child developmental sciences and pediatric medical sciences, you shouldn't steal a baby's pinky. Arthur was just born. Guys, let that sink in. Let that sink in. Arthur was just born, and he's like probably still incredibly malnourished, and he needs all of the nutrients he can get right now. You wouldn't steal candy from a baby, so you wouldn't steal a baby's pinky, okay? Meanwhile, Lilith has those crazy eldritch vitamins flowing through her veins. Am I right? So we should be feeding the forest Lilith's pinky because it's like a juice box. It's like a little morsel. It's like a chicken nugget, okay? The forest would much rather eat a chicken nugget than like a tiny little baby pinky. Think about the ethics of taking a baby's pinky. Guys, Arthur is just a little baby right now. Don't take his freaking pinky, okay? The forest would love a chicken nugget. So feed them Lilith's pinky. Thank you. Have a good autopsy.
Thank you, Pan, you unhinged motherfucker.
So I'm gonna be changing my vote. Give me a quick second.
Peppers, no!
That was pretty good.
Peppers! How did the stupid shitpost vote from somebody who hasn't even listened change your mind?
Hold on, I'm gonna send a screenshot.
Oh my god, I'm gonna kill her. Oh my god.
Let me grab that little screenshot.
No! Peppers is in real time actually changing her vote. I have no doubt about it right now. There is the screenshot. That's insane. That's insane that you let somebody who hasn't even listened, is not caught up, change your mind.
All right. He makes a good point. I never really thought of it like that.
Oh my god.
Really never thought about it like that.
You're not scared of Lilith anymore?
Well, when
remember that?
When he puts it like that, it's just like, you're right. Why would I abuse a baby like that? Fuck. I mean, aren't we all just baby abusers at that point?
Oh
really makes you think. And I really don't want to be at the end of a huge Tumblr rant about how Peppers is a baby abuser. So.
There's my cover your ass vote.
Yeah.
I'm not a baby abuser. Let's move on.
Also, Arthur has to leave part of himself again. Hypothetically, if he dies again, hopefully not, and does all the Dark World stuff again, would he just get shot out of the tree again? Did he just figure out how to get an IRL respawn point? Okay, now I'll talk about the vote. Absolutely wild vote. On one hand, pun not intended, Lilith's pinky shows that we aren't messing around and we aren't going to be pushed around. a man not to be fucked with, to quote John. On the other hand, Arthur's pinky would show her some mercy and might make her less angry at us. But it also might make her think we're quote-unquote weak. Arthur is going to be far more dexterous with his hand, and we're going to need every finger we can get. So, Lilith, as much as I love you, we're going to have to take your pinky. Either way, another injury means a new scar shot. This is how Scartha can still win, guys. I promise. Scar chart's back. We are so back. Alright, that's all I have to say, folks. Happy autopsying.
Thanks, Gogoat. And before we start commenting on this submission, I want to play the next Gogoat submission that we just got today.
Hello, this is later in the week, Gogoat. Any pronouns? Usually I spend an hour writing my note, literally just saying I'm changing my vote to Arthur's pinky, because the symbolism. Back in the Dreamlands in Season 2, John was willing to give up his pinky to, quote-unquote, share in the difficult part. Lilith is not. Whether Arthur likes it or not, just like with John, he's sharing his body with someone else. A big element of exploration in their arc throughout the series has been bodily autonomy, and mutual respect. Working together is more than just teamwork. Biting the pinky is Arthur's idea. Even if it's the right path, it's still Arthur's idea. So would it not only be fair to give Lilith the opportunity to say no and have autonomy within the shared body? I have no idea if that made any sense. Okay, bye-bye from later in the week, Gogoat. Happy autopsying.
Thank you, later in the week, Gogoat, for your submission. I'm so proud of you for seeing the light again.
I just love how how Gogoat was talking. Okay, here's my reasoning as to why we need to bite Lilith's finger, and then, hi. Later in the week, Gogoat, I have a new opinion. And it's like, who's coming after you, bro?
Big Malevolent strikes again. Yeah, today actually, so Vol Control does all the prep for the show, as everyone knows, and typically is the one to listen to all the voice messages and do all of the hard work that makes me just get to show up and yap, which is crazy. But I have to do that because he's out of town right now. I think he might be listening right now with his mama in the car. So if you are, hi Vol and hi Vol's mama. And usually Vol is pretty strict about closing submissions the night before autopsy so that he has plenty of time to prep the next day. I am not like that because I'm a last minute hoe. And I saw that Gogoat was like, I flipped. And I really wish I would have sent in a submission. And I'm like, I won't say anything. You can send it in. That's fine. Just early this morning. So just barely slid under the submission window about the flip. And I really appreciated it, especially because it's an Arthur submission and we didn't get a lot of those. So thank you. And also, very good point. I do think that consent and bodily autonomy are playing into why I'm voting to bite off Arthur's hand, because it's not Lilith's idea. She straight up says, like, I'm sure there's a million other ways we could do this, but if this is how you want to do it, fine, we'll do it. But then he's gonna bite off her pinky? That's a little fucked up. I don't know that I like that. I don't really like that.
That's a good point. Give me a second. 1 second. Just give me a second.
This is why I love autopsy. This is great. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Just give me a second. 1 moment, please. Sorry, hold on. Just give me a second. Okay, we can keep going.
Peppers has posted a screenshot of successfully flipping her vote. Thanks, Peppers, for your vote. And Vol typed hi in the chat. Hi, Vol. Okay, well, that's great. Thank you, Gogoat, for helping me flip Peppers. Let's listen to another voice message.
Hello, Autopsy. I'm Oro, Didam. This is the first time that I'm sending in a recording, so I hope I'm completely understandable. This week, I'm voting to bite off our own pinky, the things that we say while talking about this podcast. Anyway, I really believe that we can break down Lilith's walls. I don't expect them to crumble quickly, But I think it's possible, and the first step in that direction is to show kindness, trust, and respect. I want to give her the benefit of the doubt. Does she deserve it? No, I don't really think so. We have every right to believe her unredeemable. But I keep thinking of Arthur's words when John tells him that Oscar may be beyond saving, when he says, "I'm glad Parker didn't feel the same way." So hell, let's give her a chance. At worst, we lose a finger and feel immeasurable pain. Nothing we haven't already done.
Thank you, Oro, for your first submission. I loved it. Thank you so much. I hope we hear from you again. And I'm so glad that you were able to weaponize Parker against specifically Peppers, who you did not know was going to be the co-host for today when you submitted. But that is fully what I planned on, this being one of the last submissions.
Yeah, well, I already changed my vote. So, yeah, well,
Vote's
you
harder.
didn't even have to manipulate me because I'm a free thinker. So.
I think it's a really good quote, though. I'm glad Parker didn't feel the same way, is a really good perspective for why we should bother with Lilith. I don't think that rehabilitating or redeeming Lilith is part of this season of Malevolent, but I do think that it would be a shame to act like that. We have one final submission.
Hi, Autopsy. I have been waylaid, you might say, for obvious reasons. You can't have a man on the episode about women. But let the record show, I am here for women's rights and women's wrongs. I believe Lilith is well within her rights to bully Arthur, but I gotta stand up for my guy Arthur and say he should chomp her hand. She's gotta learn about pain sometime. However, I will say my mom, who is waylaid with me, a woman, mind you, although she does not listen to Malevolent and only knows the bare bones of it, she says that we should do whatever gets Lilith and Arthur getting along so they can separate faster. So I think that means that Arthur should bite his own damn hand. Good luck, Autopsy. I'll see you on the other side.
Thanks, Vol, for submitting. And you're so right. And your mom is so right.
I love getting like comments from parties who are not involved in the podcast at all, and they're just like, well, this is my opinion. I really love that, and I really do value I really do value her her opinion on this matter. Shout out to women.
Shout out to women. Yeah, very funny that Vol has missed the 2 episodes where I would say gender has suddenly become a thing in the podcast. A lot of people are talking about supporting women's wrongs and supporting the woman in the podcast as a joking reason to vote, and I think it's funny that Vol just conveniently misses out on that. And the episode that we talked the most about, like, emotional maturity in men and emotional growth and society's impact on men and their emotions and how they process them, Vol was also absent for. So it's been an interesting time just having Vol mysteriously go missing when we talk about stuff like that.
How interesting. Really makes you think. I'm watching you, Vol.
watching Vol and his suspicious absences. Anyway, thank you guys so much for coming to this episode of Autopsy. It was a blast. I had so much fun. And Peppers, you are such a delight, and I'm so glad I flipped you back to the side of truth.
Yeah. I'm happy to be here. Happy to be swayed so often. That's what I'm here for.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. Thank you, of course, to Harlan Guthrie, the sole creator of Malevolent. Without his labor of love for a story he wants to tell, we wouldn't be here. To join the live recording, submit your own message, get in touch with me, and more, visit Linktree/Malevolent Autopsy. The official Invictus Discord server is open to the public and includes a channel just for Malevolent Autopsy fans. We also have our own private, patrons-only channel. Finally, thank you to Mizra, Nikki, Vol Control, and everyone who has helped create and maintain Malevolent Autopsy. These friends are also volunteers who donate time and energy to help put together this love letter to Malevolent. Okay, Peppers, do you remember our sign-off?
Yes, I do.
As you have popularized it. The horrors persist.
And so do we.